I'm going to show you how to compare two assignments. There's a really cool script up here, and you got to be in Windows Explorer to use it. But inside of the two model scripts directory is this thing, post-process and compare assignments. And I'm not actually a big fan of it located right there for this thing that we're going to do. I want to have it in here in scenarios, and I'll compare assignments there. So because we're comparing two networks across scenarios, then it doesn't make sense to put this with any particular scenario because it's not scenario specific. So to compare two scenarios, I want to go here and get the scenario. So I need to get this thing that's the summary.net out of 5 assigned highway. Control C, put it in compare assignments. And then I'm going to go try to find a 2050 fiscally constrained 2050 5 assigned highway. Summary.net also here. So now I've got two .net files, and I need to open up this .s file. Usually .s files are opened up through the Cube interface, but they don't have to be. And it'll be really easy if we don't do that. So I'm going to just... Actually, I ended up opening it in Notepad. I decided it's better because it doesn't have margins or doesn't require wraps or anything, and that's what I want to see. So here is what it says. Compare net1 name. It has just some name, so what I need to do is get the name. The 19 versus 50. So that's what I'm going to do right there. Now you can read down through here the things that it's comparing. It's basically saying lanes 1 minus lanes 2, and then it's doing some volume, also daily volume 1 minus daily volume 2. So those are the things that it's doing. And I'm just going to save it, and run it. So to run it, you right click here, open with what? Cube-Voyager. So this is outside of the Cube base environment now. This is going straight to the engine, the Cube-Voyager engine. And I'm just going to say start. No, it turns out it wasn't running. It was running, but it tried to find this file called LRP 2050 summary, and it said it can't find it. The F parenthesis is the way you find fatal errors, so you can search on that. And it just means I spelled it wrong. So base year 2019. So it says it works best if net 1 is the higher capacity network. So I also want to, I did this wrong here. I want this to say 2050 versus 19 because I want 50 to be in slot number 1 and 19 to be in slot number 2. It just helps me stay organized and be able to tell what I'm doing. Alright, so it's doesn't have true shape, so I think I do want to add true shape, so let me go here quickly and add it. I gotta go to Polyline, browse. Okay, then the next thing I want to do is GIS tools, true shape. Say OK. Let's look at this. This one's pretty helpful. So this is, so let's just pick one of these roads and look at it. So it says lanes 1, 2, lanes 1, lanes 2 was 1. So lanes 1 is my 2050 because that's in slot 1 versus 19 is 1. So it means by 2050 it's 2 lanes each direction, whereas it used to be 1 lane each direction. And so that's how you can see. So this is everything that's new. Now if I go clear over here, I'm probably looking at things like this. So this is 1 lane in 2050, 1 lane each direction, but the road didn't even exist in 2019. So a bunch of these are showing roads that are brand new as well. And I could change the coloring scheme a little bit to show that. Maybe I'll do that. Alright, so here are all of the lane differences anything that's not the pink color is a road that was already there before and has been added a lane to, and then a pink is just a totally new road. Alright, so one thing I did was I went to the colors and compared daily volumes, and I just changed the line thicknesses because they were so obnoxiously wide before. So I just made them smaller, and that helped a lot. And then I'm posting values. I went here to post values, post daily volume, and I wanted to see for cases where the percentage in daily volume is higher than 10%, so it's gone up a fair amount. Then I wanted to see the original volume, or the 2050 volume, and the 2019 volume. So it does do that, and I rounded to the nearest 100. But this is one of those cases where the labels are just too big. I need to divide by 1,000, like I did in a previous video. So I'm going to show you how to do that in the script. So I'm using an editor called Ultra Editor, but it's pretty much the same as Notepad, but it's a lot better. But you won't have that, so you can just use Notepad or anything. And so what I want to do here is go down to where I'm computing the DYV right here, and I'm going to add another variable where I divide by 1,000. So I'm going to copy that, put that in, and I'm going to just say DYV1 and DYV2 is going to be equal to 1K, and I'm going to say that is equal to whatever this one was, round this, divide 1,000. Okay, so that ought to do it, and I'll do it right here. And I'm also going to just say this is a 2, and I don't need to have, well, actually I do want to have DYV 1K 1 minus 2, so that ought to do it. So I've now computed these things, but I'm not totally sure they're going to output into the network until I check what's going into the output. So this says include in the output all of these values. So the values that I just created are not going to go in there unless I put them in there. And so I need to copy something pretty similar to that. And then I just have to add the underscore 1K, and I'll close this network. Actually, before I close the network, I'm going to save it. So File, Save, at Project As, and it's going to be default VPR, yes, and OK to overwrite. And because I just did true shape networks, it's going to come up and say, do you want to save this stuff? I'll say yes. And let me try it now. So I'm going out to here, right click, run. Alright, I'm going to show you how to edit a VPR file from within ASCII. So I had a nice colors set up for the third position, and this is what they all were. But rather than like manually recreate them, I wanted to organize the VPR file a little bit. So I'm going to change these to 2 because I know 2 is an open slot, and I have a way that I can change these. Ultra Edit is able to do that really nicely. So I'm going to say color 2, selected text, replace all, replace all. Okay, so now it's found all the color 3s and changed them into color 2s. So I could have just done it like that. So this is now 2, 2. I'm looking for big changes, so this is going to now say big changes. And I'm looking for cases where instead of just 1,000 different, I'm looking for like if it's different by 5,000. And in here, if this is less than 5,000, less than 3,000, less than 1,000, 1,000. So just add 1,000 pretty much to everything, and let's see what happens. So now I can close the VPR and see what I get. So I'll just open the network right up. Okay, so that's all right. So I didn't give it a name yet, so I thought, well, I did actually. I don't know why it doesn't show, but so I'm going to get the group name from this one. Okay, I've run 2 iterations of the frontage road scenario, and so I'm setting it up now to do the comparison. So one thing I'm going to do before I do that is I'm just going to collect these names in here because I want to also have them available. And so set this up. FR52 versus IT1. So that's a pretty good name. Alright, so that's good. So I'm going to test that out and see what happens. Alright, so here's the main difference. It's pretty interesting. So because the frontage road network, I'm just comparing one iteration versus another, the links are practically all the same, with the exception of the centroid connectors that I hooked on and this little road I connected right here. So what do we see? So the red means that the volume went up in iteration 2, and green means it went down. So I had 3,000 before here, and now I have 6,000, 2,000 before here, and now I have 6. And going on up, some of this makes sense to me. So I made this red road faster, which drew a little bit away from St. George Boulevard. I thought it would pull more than it did, but it didn't really pull all that much, which must mean not that much from here to there was going on St. George Boulevard in the first place. So why did it go up by 5,000? Well, part of the reason is because this one came down. It didn't come down by much. It was at 16, now it's at 15. And I guess when you look at that, it kind of makes sense because this one has a pretty big out of direction loop. And this one also has an out of direction to get to the north, but maybe it's about a tie. So if you make this one a little faster, some people go this way. So some of that makes some sense. And I-15 went up, but the frontage road went down in this case, and the reason for that is because I made a direct connection from I-15 to this road that wasn't there before, and vice versa. I had a direct connection onto I-15, which made it go up to 20 instead of 15. So a lot of this makes sense to me, and that's good. So now you know everything there is to know about comparing networks. This one's over, thanks. One last thing I want to put into this particular tutorial is how to compare 2 networks side by side. So we compared them just a minute ago by subtracting one from the other, so you could see the differences in one network. But now I want to show you how to do side by side. So I did show this in an earlier tutorial, but in case you forgot or want more practice, here's how you do it. So the default is to see everything in tab view, but you need to toggle this tab right here, which is put you into kind of Windows mode, and then we will minimize everything that we don't want to see in the comparison. So the master network is back there, and I don't want to see that one in the comparison. So minimize that. Minimize that. And then I got these two. So now what you do is you tile vertically like this, or horizontal, whichever is easiest, and then you synchronize windows. So the master net's already here, and it's gonna, so I can put all three of those in there and hit close, and now they're synced. Even this one that's minimized is also synced. And so now all I got to do is zoom in, and so if I zoom into the part that's most interesting, so the two I'm comparing is the regular long-range plan, which is over here on the right, which does not have the frontage road system, versus the one that does, the one-way frontage roads. And actually, I think I'll just post arrows because it's a little easier to see that there's something different. And so, all right. So it'll also help to post values. So I think this is here. Let's find out if it is. Nope. The two-way 1K was something that I had to compute automatically. And if I go here, I can post the same one. All right, so this is a bit of a bother that it shows the full set of numbers, but it's okay because I'm zoomed in close enough that we'll be able to see. So you can see that here I had 47,500, 42,000, and it's now dropped to 4238. So that's pretty good. It's a much more manageable amount. And down here I did have 26,000, and it's now at 29. So that's because I opened a connection to I-15 through the frontage road, so you can now get to I-15 via the frontage road, where before you really couldn't. So that was the reason it attracted some traffic down to here. And anyway, so you can see the comparison that way. That's all I wanted to show you.